Most people think budgeting is a modern invention. They think some guy in a suit at a bank figured it out in the 1950s, slapped it on a pamphlet, and the world just ran with it. They're wrong. 2,000 years ago, in the heart of the Roman Empire, one man built a personal fortune estimated at over 300 million sesterces. In today's money, that's somewhere between $2 and $4 billion. Not millions, billions. His name was Lucius Annaeus Seneca. He was a philosopher, a political advisor, a playwright, and by every historical measure, one of the richest men who ever lived in ancient Rome. And he didn't stumble into that wealth by accident. He built it, methodically, deliberately, using a ratio, a system for splitting every single coin that entered his hands into 3 distinct portions, each with a specific job, each serving a different purpose in his financial architecture. If you've tried budgeting before, the apps, the spreadsheets, the 50-30-20 rule, and you're still watching your money disappear by the end of every month, stay with me. This is a 2,000-year-old wealth operating system from a man who actually became a billionaire using it. And if this channel keeps delivering insights like this, hit that subscribe button, because everything here is rooted in Stoic philosophy that has survived 20 centuries for a reason. Before we get into the ratio itself, you need to understand something about Seneca that most philosophy channels leave out. Seneca was not a monk. He was not some barefoot ascetic sitting on a hillside in a toga meditating about the beauty of poverty. The real Seneca owned vineyards across multiple provinces. He owned sprawling country estates. He ran lending operations that financed entire regional governments. According to the historian Cassius Dio, his aggressive lending practices in Britannia may have contributed to political tensions in the province. This was not a man who rejected money. This was a man who understood money at a level most modern advisors can only dream of. And his critics attacked him for it. They said, "How can you call yourself a Stoic and sit on top of that much wealth?" Seneca's answer, written in his essay De Vita Beata on the happy life, was devastating. He said, "The wise man does not love wealth, but he prefers it. He does not admit it into his heart, but into his house. He does not reject what he has, he controls it." That single idea is the foundation of everything you're about to hear. Seneca didn't believe in being poor. He didn't romanticize struggle. He also didn't believe in spending without structure or letting emotion drive financial decisions. He believed in a ratio, and that ratio had 3 parts. Part 1. Seneca called this securing the foundation. In letter 18 of his letters to Lucilius, Seneca wrote something that sounds insane at first. He told his friend, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest food, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This was not a motivational quote. This was a financial stress test. Seneca was saying, figure out your floor. Figure out exactly how little you actually need to survive. Not in theory, in practice. Sleep on the hard bed. Eat the simple food. And once you know, really know in your bones what your minimum survival costs are, you will never make a fear-based financial decision again. The first portion of every coin went directly to the baseline: shelter, food, basic transportation, not the lifestyle he wanted, the absolute minimum required to remain alive and functional. Why does this matter for you right now? Because most people have no idea what their real survival number is. They think it's their current monthly spending. It's not. Your survival number is what it costs to keep you alive, housed, and fed when everything else is stripped away. No Netflix, no DoorDash, no subscriptions, just the raw floor of human existence. Seneca knew his number down to the last coin, and that knowledge gave him something money could never buy: freedom from fear. In letter 4, he wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Think about what that means in your own life right now. How many decisions have you made or avoided making purely because you were afraid of running out of money? How many times have you stayed in a situation that was slowly destroying you because the alternative felt financially terrifying? That fear is not a money problem. It's an information problem. You're afraid because you don't know your floor. You've never calculated it. You've never tested it. You just imagine the worst and let that imaginary worst dictate every choice you make. When you know your floor, everything changes. You stop saying yes to that job you hate because you think you need the salary. You stop staying in partnerships that drain you because you've confused your lifestyle with your survival. You negotiate differently. You take calculated risks differently. You walk away from bad deals differently because you're operating from a position of knowledge, not a position of panic. The first portion was never about saving money. It was about buying clarity. And clarity, in Seneca's philosophy, was the single most valuable asset a human being could own. Part 2, Seneca called this the growth portion. This is where modern understanding of Stoicism goes completely off the rails. Most people hear Stoic and picture someone wanting nothing, feeling nothing, accepting whatever fate hands them. That is not Stoicism. That is apathy, and Seneca despised apathy. In chapter 21 of On the Happy Life, he wrote, "I shall not regard riches with scorn. I shall use them." Use them. Seneca treated money like a carpenter treats a hammer, a tool whose only value lies in what you build with it. The second portion went directly into assets that generated more coins. In his case, land, trade routes, lending operations. In your case, index funds, real estate, a business, or any vehicle that turns today's money into tomorrow's income. But here's the critical rule Seneca embedded in his growth strategy. In Letter 2, he told Lucilius, "Be careful lest your reading of many authors may tend to make you discursive and unsteady. You must linger among a limited number of master thinkers and digest their works." He was talking about books, but the principle was universal. Seneca did not scatter his growth portion across 20 different investments hoping one would pay off. He selected a small number of assets he deeply understood and concentrated there. This runs against the most popular modern advice: diversify everything, spread your bets. But Seneca's logic was ruthless. He believed ignorance was the real risk, not concentration. If you understand an asset deeply, its cycles, its mechanics, its failure modes, then concentrating there is precision, not gambling. In modern terms, if you understand technology, invest in tech. If you understand real estate, buy property. If you understand online business, build digital assets. Stop scattering your growth portion across whatever some podcast told you to buy this week. Go deep where you have genuine knowledge. Warren Buffett, the most successful investor in modern history, has said essentially the same thing for 60 years. He calls it staying within your circle of competence. He didn't invent that idea. Seneca wrote it 2,000 years before Buffett was born. The difference is that Buffett puts it in shareholder letters and Seneca put it in philosophical letters to his best friend. The principle is identical. Concentrated knowledge beats diversified ignorance every single time. If this makes more sense than the last 10 finance videos you've watched, subscribe, because the third portion is the one that changes everything. Part 3. The portion for virtue. In De Beneficis, a 7-book treatise dedicated entirely to giving and receiving, Seneca wrote something most people still misunderstand 2,000 years later. He said, "A benefit given reluctantly, or that falls from the hand by accident, does not deserve gratitude. What earns gratitude is the intention and strategy behind the giving." The third portion did not go into savings. It did not go into investments. It went into other people. But not randomly. Seneca was surgical about giving. In Book 1, he wrote, "You must select those to whom you wish to give with even greater care than in choosing a friend, for to a beneficiary you create a bond that may last a lifetime." In Rome, your social capital was your real net worth. A man who gave wisely created allies. A man who gave foolishly created leeches. And this pattern has not aged a single day. Look at any self-made billionaire alive right now. They don't just earn well and invest well. They build networks through strategic generosity. They mentor someone who becomes a business partner 5 years later. They fund a project that connects them to an industry they've been trying to enter. They share knowledge freely, not because they're saints, but because knowledge shared creates trust, and trust creates opportunities money alone can never open. Charlie Munger said something almost identical to Seneca 2,000 years later. The best thing a human being can do is to help another human being know more. That's not charity. That's compounding social capital.
Seneca's third portion was not a feel-good donation bucket, it was the most powerful accelerator in his system because it compounded in dimensions that pure financial investment could never reach. Now let me show you how all three work together in practice. Say you bring home $5,000 a month after taxes. Portion 1, the foundation. Calculate your true survival number. For most single adults in the US, that's between $1,200 and $1,800. Call it $1,500. Rent, groceries, utilities, transport, this money is untouchable. Portion 2, the growth deployment. $2,000 goes into the asset class you understand best. Starting out with no deep expertise, a low-cost, broad market index fund. Carrying high-interest credit card debt, eliminating a 20% interest rate is mathematically identical to earning 20% risk-free. That's your highest return investment. The third portion, the virtue investment, $1,500. This does not mean donating $1,500 to charity. This means take that business connection to dinner, buy that course that puts you in a room with people 2 levels above you. Help someone in your field who's earlier in their journey, because the person you help when they have nothing remembers you when they have everything. The exact percentages are not rigid. Seneca shifted proportions based on circumstances. In letter 20, he wrote, "Sometimes the wise man retreats, sometimes he advances, but every movement is deliberate." In tight months, the foundation grows proportionally and the others shrink. When a major opportunity appears, the growth portion absorbs almost everything above the floor. The only rule that never bends: every coin must have a job assigned before it arrives. And this is why Seneca's system destroys every modern budget framework. The 50-30-20 rule says 50% on needs, 30 on wants, 20 on savings. Look at what's missing. There's no growth category. Savings and investment are lumped together, as if a savings account earning 0.5% and an asset generating 10% returns are the same activity. They're not even in the same universe. And there's zero category for strategic relationship building. The 50-30-20 rule was designed to manage a salary. Seneca's ratio was designed to build an empire. One is a cage with comfortable padding. The other is a launch pad. There's one more practice Seneca maintained that ties this entire system together. Every year, he deliberately lived as though he'd lost everything. In letter 18, he described eating the cheapest bread, sleeping on a hard surface, wearing rough clothing for days at a time. He wasn't punishing himself, he was recalibrating. He was running the same stress test on himself that he ran on his finances, proving through direct experience that the foundation held, that he could survive on almost nothing and still function, still think clearly, still make good decisions. And when he returned to his normal life afterwards, something remarkable happened. The guilt was gone, that nagging voice that whispers, "You don't deserve this," every time you enjoy something you've earned. The anxiety about losing his wealth was gone. The fear of one bad investment destroying him completely gone, because he had already practiced losing it all. He had already walked through the fire and come out the other side. The worst-case scenario wasn't a monster in the dark anymore. It was a room he had already visited, measured, and left. And this is what separates Seneca from every budgeting app and every YouTube guru telling you to cut the lattes. Those systems try to control your behavior. Seneca's ratio controls your psychology. And once your psychology is right, once you've killed the fear, eliminated the guilt, and replaced emotional spending with systematic deployment, the money follows. It always follows. So let me leave you with this. You don't need a new app. You don't need another spreadsheet. You don't need another millionaire telling you to wake up at 5 and drink celery juice. You need a ratio. One part to secure your foundation and kill your fear. One part to grow your wealth through concentrated, knowledge-driven deployment. One part to invest in people and relationships that compound over a lifetime. Seneca wrote 124 letters to Lucilius. In almost every one, money comes up, not as a goal, not as a scoreboard, but as a tool. The man who masters the tool becomes wealthy. The man mastered by the tool stays poor forever, no matter how large his paycheck. Seneca figured this out 2,000 years before your bank was founded, before your financial advisor got licensed, before anyone invented the concept of a credit score. Now you know it too. The only question is whether you'll use it. Subscribe if you're serious. The next video breaks down the 5 types of people Seneca warned you to cut from your life before they silently drain every dollar you've built. You don't want to miss that one.